Well, in order to experience complete freedom, complete openness, complete spaciousness, complete well-being in all situations, nothing needs to change. Nothing needs to change whatsoever. In other words, the situations don't need to change. The circumstances of our lives don't need to change. Our thoughts don't need to change, and our emotions don't need to change. We don't need to change anything. We don't need to sit in a special position or stand or lie down in a special position or do anything in particular with our bodies. We don't need to either close our eyes or open our eyes or hold them at a half mast. So nothing needs to change. However we feel comfortable, in a totally easygoing way, completely carefree, neither tense or loose, all the time, no matter where we are or what we're doing, our natural state of perception is wide open and completely at ease. If we feel like there's anything else going on, it's only because we've trained ourselves to see otherwise. That's it. Our natural state of perception in every single moment is always spontaneously free and wide open, completely wide open, like vast and infinite space. And that illustration, vast and infinite space, filled with light, filled with sunlight, is the actual complete perceptual openness of our own perception in every single experience. So even though we may have trained ourselves to be very object-oriented in our perceiving, every perception begins, ends, and during its entire duration is completely wide open, like the vast infinite blue sky filled with sunlight. And as all perceptions only are that, every single perception is pure. The only thing that ever occurs is pure perceiving, however we describe it as otherwise. So is that clear? Nothing needs to be gotten or attained. We don't need to go anywhere outside of our own skin in order to experience the natural reality of our own being. All right. Let's see. There's nothing else to say. There really isn't anything else to say. Within pure perception, which, like the illustration, is open, spacious, like the vast and infinite blue sky filled with light, whatever appears is an appearance of that wide open perception and nothing else. It's always completely pure, completely at ease, and always and forever there's nothing that needs to be done about it. Whatever appears within purity is purity. Whatever appears within the wholly positive expanse is wholly positive. Whatever appears within the beneficial expanse is entirely beneficial. And what that means is that no matter what the appearance looks like, and no matter how we've learned to describe it, it is always spontaneously pure and free. And if we don't see that throughout the day and night in our life right now, it's very easy to train ourselves to see that way. We could call this natural seeing. Natural seeing, and it can be understood to a certain degree mentally. However, we can never access it only by mental means. If we try to access it by mental means or by any kinds of methods or practices, then we try to use words and concepts to describe what transcends words, what transcends descriptions. So see, we can only understand a little bit of it through mental processes. It's just like what I'm saying here is one part of the experience of being here, but it's only one part of the experience of being here. There's something about the experience of being here that transcends the words being said. So you see, this is true with every experience. It's just that in this particular room of people, there are many people who are interested in exactly the same thing. And so there's a resonance, an ease of being that is very obvious and present here. We can all sense it and feel it because we're in common agreement about this. We're in common agreement about this most urgent of matters. Now, if we were all gathered somewhere else in a room and we were all going to get free coupons for McDonald's hamburgers, then we would all have another thing that we were really interested in and committed to. So the words there would have a different feeling, perhaps, about what was going on in that space. But the reality of what we are is not anything that comes to us through anyone else. It can't possibly come to us through anyone else. It's absolutely impossible. So if we think it's coming to us through someone else, then we're looking away from what we are. Because if we're looking to someone else, then you see it's what's looking that we need to relax as. We need to relax as what's looking, not at what's being looked at. So the best we can do in terms of someone to support us with that is to find out who's going to be able to support us 100%, in other words, be there for us 24 hours a day if need be, and relaxing into this looking, just relaxing into this looking over and over again until it becomes what we see rather than objects being what we see. When we're born, our way of seeing is completely wide open. Our awareness is completely wide open and isn't object-oriented at all. So this is something we learn. We learn object-oriented seeing, object-oriented programming through repetition of seeing objects. That's how it comes about. So you see, it comes about gradually. It doesn't come about all at once. When we're born, we have no sense of being anybody. And we have no sense of anyone else being anybody either. There's just complete perceptual openness in all experience. Then we train ourselves through exposure to the people around us to see objects, to identify ourselves as an object. Technically what's called a subject, but let's look at it all as objects. Identify ourselves as an object or point of view, and then learn to just differentiate all these appearances as different objects or points of view. It takes us a long time, years, to learn the concept of I. That's a very difficult concept. So you see, it isn't one we're born with. No matter what people may say, no matter what conventional beliefs may be about that, no one is born as an I. No one carries over anything else from any other time, because perception is timeless. It's wide open and spacious. It's never held to or been collapsed into time or cause and effect or place or location. That has never occurred and it never will occur. Just because we train ourselves to believe that does not mean that has occurred. It does not mean it has occurred. It has never occurred. And at the same time, there's no need to hold to any way of speaking about what we are or any kind of position. like saying nothing exists, nothing ever happened, or everything exists, everything is happening, everything's material. We don't need to hold to either. Seeing is completely spacious and completely free. It's never had anything to hold on to within its seeing. So you see, it's absolutely unnecessary to hold on to any description of this, either saying that things exist or that they don't exist. What is most obvious to us in every moment of living is the way things are. And what's most obvious to us in every moment of living isn't a mental process. It's here, it's this magnificent display of what's here, and it is not object-oriented in any way. If we want to orient towards an object, we have to focus in. But most of our experience for all of our lives is just this wide open seeing of everything all at once, perfect all at once, with no division. The only division that seems to come about comes through description of this reality as being something other than what it is, and then fixating on that description. So to say, everything, there really are all these people, and there are 7 billion of them at least, and each one is an individual one, and it's hard to keep track of all this, isn't it? Just in that brief description, it's a difficult mental exercise to keep track of such a concept. But when we just relax and allow the naturalness of our own seeing to be completely wide open, and to be engaged with and as everything just as it is, then it's much easier to live in all ways. So it's much easier to live, have relationships, to work, to contribute to life. When we open to our natural seeing, in that we experience a lot of benefit for ourselves. And what kind of benefit is experienced? Well, the benefit that is experienced is just a natural ease in living, because we no longer need to hold on to anything that appears, whether it's a thought, an emotion, or an experience. They're all equal. They don't need to be changed in any way whatsoever. Descriptions of purity are all purity at their basis. So if a description of purity says anger, it's still a description of purity. If a description says joy, it's still a description of purity. It's the same purity. So in that wide open seeing is an expanse of equalness and evenness. Everything that appears is absolutely equal and even. Now, this may not be what we've learned, however, it is so. What we've learned is incorrect. It's incorrect about in terms of who we really are. It's completely incorrect. Because we describe our thoughts and emotions as positive and negative does not mean that those appearances are actually positive and negative. These are just ways of describing reality in a conventional sort of way. But it isn't really the natural way of our being to describe everything in such a way, to divvy it up and say this is the good stuff and this is the bad stuff. We don't need to do that in order to know what to do and how to act. Beyond all that labeling, beyond transcending good and bad, is natural wisdom that requires no thinking. It's wisdom on the fly. In other words, it doesn't need to think for a long period of time to come to a decision and then regret the decision or feel ambivalent about it or need to take a position about it after. It's wisdom on the fly, which means it's completely spontaneous. It's completely spontaneous and naturally occurring without any forethought or afterthought. This is our natural state. Our natural state of completely open wisdom, completely free wisdom, does not require any objects to become wise. So it doesn't require collecting a bunch of particular thoughts or emotions or a combination of the two and throw in a few experiences to arrive at primordial wisdom. Primordial wisdom is always wise. It's fundamentally wise, and it doesn't need any help from the dictionary. Needs no help whatsoever from the dictionary. The dictionary is an appearance of this natural wisdom. However, natural wisdom is far, far beyond it. It's just one of the many appearances of the magnificent display. When we give this to ourselves by just resting as the seeing in a totally uncontrived way, for short moments, repeated many times until it becomes spontaneous and automatic, then we give ourselves the greatest gift of life, the most precious gift of human life. Everything that appears, no matter what it is, whether it seems to be internal, our own body, or external, our own body's kind of a combination of the internal and the external. But no matter what it is that appears, whatever appears is like a mirage. It's like a mirage. It's a vivid appearance of space, of light-filled space. Or it's like an appearance of a hologram. A hologram is another appearance of light-filled space in which all the images seem very vivid, clear, and distinct, but neither in a mirage nor in a hologram would we look for anything to depend on. We wouldn't look for anything there. We wouldn't look for love. We wouldn't look for relief from anxiety or depression or panic or any other afflictive state. We wouldn't look for anything, whether it was positive or negative, in a mirage or a hologram. We would know not to look there. We would automatically know not to look there. And this is the case, too, with everything that appears. Everything that appears is like a mirage or a hologram. It's a vivid appearance of forever empty seeing, of forever empty, stainless looking. And it'll never be any other way than that. If we want to describe it as some other way than that, then we have complete freedom to do that. This is just the way it is for human beings. We have complete freedom to see our life and our world in any way we want to. However, we don't need to adopt conventional beliefs if we don't want to. And if we have adopted conventional beliefs, we can start right now and just allowing seeing to happen, allowing that wide open seeing to simply be as it is, without any need to cling to all the labels, or without any need to treat ourselves as though who we are is an accumulation of all these mirage-like appearances of thoughts, emotions, and experiences we've had during our life. If we do that, if we think we are an accumulation of all these points of view we've had during our life, then that's what we'll believe. That's what we'll think is true about ourselves, and we'll feel batted around by that, like a ping pong ball going back and forth between one thought and another thought, one emotion and another emotion, one experience and another experience, constantly seeking better thoughts, better emotions, and better experiences. Has anyone ever done that? Tried to find happiness in better thoughts, better emotions, and experiences, or am I the only one? However, we never find it any better, do we? We say, oh yes, just at last I've found the perfect experiences, and these are going to be the ones that are happy experiences. I'll change my life completely to these new experiences, and then in these new experiences, in this new mirage, that's where my happiness is going to be. It's not in the old mirage, but I am going to find it in the new mirage. So usually we have certain areas of our life where we try to change things in order to find a sense of fulfillment there. And these are usually the areas of food, money, sex, work, and relationships. That somehow we're going to change one of these things into a better mirage. So we're going to take our old mirage, for example, of not having enough money, and we're going to have a new mirage of getting more money. And this is going to make us happy. Or we haven't been eating the right kind of food. We've been eating meat, maybe, and so we've been in the meat mirage, and now we're going to go over to the vegetarian mirage. And sex, well, it's not happening for us in the current mirage, so we're going to look for a better mirage, a mirage with more of it or less of it, or with the right kinds of beings, or whatever it is. But we're going to exchange one mirage for another mirage. Work, the same thing. We don't like our job, our boss is crummy, and the people who are working with us, we hope we never see him again. So we're going to exchange that mirage for the new mirage, the happy mirage. But none of these mirage-like appearances ever bring about anything. And what about relationships? Anyone want to talk about relationships? Well, the same here. It's, this mirage, it's not giving me the water I want, so I see another mirage. There's got to be water there. And then we have the whole, especially with the relationships, but with everything too, with relationships, we have not only the mirage of the object we're oriented on. We see the guy or we see the gal, and they're the ones for us, and they look so wonderful. No one's ever looked as wonderful. But we not only have their appearance, but then inside we have these tremendous feelings. Oh, I'm so in love. I've never been in love like this before. This is it. This is new. It's never been like this, and this is going to be the one. Has anyone ever felt like that? Over and over and over again. So now what does that tell us, huh? Yeah, it just says, well, no matter what the appearances are, they're all mirage-like in nature. We're not going to find well-being and satisfaction there.